Greetings, science fiction and fantasy enthusiasts. Do you read books? Do you watch films? Do you hate deodorant? Then welcome to our podcast. With Ryan Sean O'Reilly, David Wilkinson, and Richard Mell. You're listening to No Deodorant in Outer Space. Now, let's get started.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of No Deodorant in Outer Space. I'm Ryan O'Reilly, happily recording all the way in Culver, Indiana, with my good host, Richard Mell, sitting right beside me here on the porch.
Yeah, it's great. You know, I feel like hell right now, but you know what? I wouldn't be anywhere else. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but here. This is so nice and serene.
Yeah, we're looking out on the water. The sun's setting the sky. There's some kind of fishing boat going by. The birds are chirping.
Sun's going down.
Everything is looking peachy cheery. Well, except for your 101-degree fever that you've been nursing all weekend.
Yeah, it's been kind of a trial. It started Friday at like around noon at work.
Oh, nice.
And then I stayed at work until like 5:30, and then we hightailed it out here, coughing all the way in the minivan with you, and I'm going to be surprised if, after all of this...
Oh, I'm looking so forward to that. But who's not here is the wonderful and jolly David Wilkinson.
Oh, shit.
Dave.
Hi.
Dave.
What happened?
What happened? Yeah, my car stopped accelerating on the highway, so I'm sitting here in my basement talking to you. Let's go on. Let's just do this.
Jeez.
All right.
Kind of a lackluster start.
Damn. We're talking a beam.
All right. This month, we're going to be reviewing the book Slaughterhouse-Five by the author Kurt Vonnegut, and the film Slaughterhouse-Five, which was directed by George Roy Hill and starred Michael Sachs. Around the horn real quick and just give our initial impressions of the book. Rick, let's start with you.
I thought the movie was very well done, very well casted. The guy who played Billy Pilgrim, I don't know, but I thought he did a fabulous job just capturing the innocence, sort of like the frailty of Billy Pilgrim. What else about the movie?
That'll do it.
I don't know.
Wilk, let's go to you all the way out in Michigan.
I'm sorry. Are you asking the movie or the book?
No, I was asking for a summary statement, but Rick, in his trademark podcasting thing, he answered a different question.
Jesus Christ.
You're asking.
Rick, I'm
Just
asking,
keep on talking.
I'm just asking opening remarks.
It's one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite books by one of my favorite authors. It left a lasting impression. Everybody should read this book. It's just a great book.
Yeah, and I'll say this was an excellent book. Very easy. I mean, they talk about the declarative sentences and stuff in his simple, or his straightforward style, I should say. I thought it was really great. To me, this book is almost like symbolic of like post-traumatic stress disorder, like the book itself, the whole framework of it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Well, the book, of course, is written by Kurt Vonnegut, the author, and we're staying here at the Clemens Vonnegut Jr. house, which would have been Kurt's, I think, great uncle.
No, Kurt's uncle.
Kurt's uncle.
Clemens Vonnegut Jr. was Kurt's, and Kurt's grandfather was Bernard Vonnegut.
No, but Clemens Jr. was his brother. Clemens Sr. was the dad of all.
That's what I said, right?
No.
Oh, shit. I'm fucked up.
Okay. In any case, why don't you tell us a little bit about Kurt Vonnegut?
Oh, my God. Well, okay, let's see how this goes. Well, Kurt Vonnegut, he was born in 1922. During the heyday, when the stock market continued to go up. And it was the roaring 20s, and his parents and his family, starting with his great-grandfather, Clemens Vonnegut.
Senior.
Clemens Vonnegut Sr. kind of built something pretty special in Indianapolis. They were very proactive, sort of German communalists, I would call them.
Freethinkers.
Yeah, well, that's what they called themselves in Germany before. Well, as they were leaving Germany, they had problems with the governments over there, and the freethinkers, they were atheistic, and they just believed in finding hope in humanity, and they would deliberately try to sort of diversify their own development in as many directions as they could. These German communities in Indianapolis, they were pretty tight. His grandfather, Clemens Vonnegut Sr., he started a hardware store, and he ran the store. Was pretty successful with it.
The Vonnegut Hardware Company, I think it was called.
I think it was the Vonnegut Hardware. Yeah, okay. And I think the most interesting thing is Clemens Vonnegut Sr., he had, three boys? Four boys. One of which was Kurt's grandfather, Bernard. And Bernard wasn't like the other guys. He just found the hardware very extremely mundane, and he wanted to pursue more artistic endeavors. And, instead of being scolded and alienated in his family, he was pushed. They found him a job with a local mason, and he drew up designs for him for a little bit. And then when he went to school, he didn't go anywhere near Indianapolis. They sent him over to Europe to go learn. And then he was in theater quite a bit over there. And then they said, okay, well, you got to come back and
marry a nice German girl.
Come back, marry a nice German girl, and get serious and make a living for yourself. So eventually did. He ended up going to New York. This is still Kurt Vonnegut Jr.'s grandfather. So
Bernard, yeah.
Grandfather Bernard. So he's in New York. He's a very successful architect. And he designs a lot of the commercial buildings over there. And I think he comes back to designs one of the gymnasiums. I think it's the Antheum or
Enanthium.
Enanthium, maybe.
It was a derivation of Athena, but it was originally called.
It was kind of like a Turner House. There's a Turner House. It's a restaurant now in Milwaukee. I don't think there is one Turner House that is active anymore. All the German Turner houses, I think, were decimated.
So let's just set that. So a lot of the Germans, when they came over, it was during the 58 or 48 revolution in Germany, and there was kind of a mass migration,
right?
Where a lot of them ended up in Indiana, and they brought with them their traditions that you talked about, the free thinkers and stuff, and they started these, like you said, they were like gymnastics house, and the one in Indianapolis, Bernard actually was the architect. He designed it, and it's still there. And I think it was called the German House, the Das Haus or something like that.
Oh, I wouldn't even attempt to try and pronounce it. Maybe you can look it up while I'm talking, but they were an extremely significant part of the community in Indianapolis. Part of the German way in Indy back then was to just sort of show your colors, spread your peacock feathers, make sure that everyone knew that you were kind of up and coming. So there was a constant competition to flash success, and that's how Kurt's. Well, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but
that's all right. You can jump ahead.
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead. His father, Kurt Vonnegut Sr., married.
Is that Edith?
Edith Vonnegut. She was a very successful brewer, and she came from a very wealthy family, and she lived a lavish life. And as the stock market crashed, she continued to convince herself that her life needed to be lavish. So it was kind of a train wreck right before Kurt Vonnegut's eyes, and he probably started, forming some pretty curious opinions watching that, and watching his father kind of withdraw as they got poorer and poorer and poorer.
Well, and then depression hit Kurt Sr., who was also an architect like his father, Bernard. That there was no more houses to be built, and so he had to close up the grandfather's shop. And then it's like you said, they just didn't have the money coming in. And then
what shop?
What? They closed the architectural firm.
Oh, okay.
Which Bernard started. And then, and that's when it started really going downhill for Kurt's mother, who ended up dying from an overdose of pills. And I think there was speculation whether or not it might have been a suicide. There's some debate there.
Yeah.
But she died.
Well, Kurt Vonnegut's pretty. He was very adamant that his wife or his mother committed suicide. Where the rest of his family, officially on paper, they're like, no, she just kind of faded away, and she didn't have control over her pills.
and then at that time is when Kurt went off to World War II.
Yes, and that was an extremely significant part of his life. That's borne out this book that we're about to review. And, for the longest time, Kurt, as he got out of the war and he established the fact that he wanted to pursue writing, he kept on telling everyone around him that, he's going to keep, trying to write this book about the war. And he kept on, just repeating that. And
and the reason for that was that Battle of the Bulge, he got captured, and he was a prisoner of war, and with a bunch of other Americans, and they ended up in Dresden, which later on the Allies just completely bombed into the ground.
Correct.
And him and his group of prisoners, and I guess some of the guards, were one of the few people that survived that incident. And I think at the time the world didn't really know what happened over there. It was kind of downplayed. No, it was in the dark for decades. Yeah. And the whole event at Hiroshima, that was a huge piece of propaganda that was used to end the war. But in Dresden, they kept secret for a while. Part of Slaughterhouse-Five, Kurt writes about sort of like this being a scandal, and that the Air Force history archive kind of deliberately kept this under wraps for decades.
Hey, on that thought, that when you call it a scandal, this book was banned and references a banned book for a good portion of American history. Even into the 80s, it was banned in some communities, and maybe the 90s. But it's even referenced in the movie Footloose as a banned book that the hero of Footloose reads, much to the chagrin of John Lithgow. But I never understood why this book was banned, and I have more insight now, but you guys have been in the thick of it. Can you maybe talk about why it was banned? I mean, was it just the Dresden? I mean, it didn't strike me as a bannable book.
In Slaughterhouse-Five, Kurt recalls, he talks about the raw data of Dresden. I think it was made up of 600,000 people. And, it was a beautiful city. Obviously, his heart is still kind of in the German culture. Okay, so there may be some bias here, but, I mean, from his description, stepping out of the slaughterhouse when the bombing was over, he was adamant that everything in the city, every built-up part of the city, was decimated. And they not only did strategic bombings to take bridges out, they didn't do strategic bombings to take bridges out. They just bombed buildings.
They bombed the
where people are
into the ground.
Yeah, according to Kurt.
And it was surprising because it was supposed to be a town that didn't have military operations.
Correct.
That was the thought.
And some of the people who did some research on this, they pointed out were just left intact. There were a couple of industries that could be sort of related to the war by proxy that were left untouched. So it was mainly just the British and the Americans taking out innocents to end the war, and felt extremely threatened with the V-bomb.
But as far as banning the book, I'm not sure why it was banned. I didn't see anything about that. My thought is I think because of maybe some of the language in the book. No.
This is all about the bombing of Dresden. That is the most pivotal part of this thing.
That's why you think the book was banned?
Because the U.S. government and now sort of like the monkey, German government, they both claim that 25,000 people died in Dresden during that bombing. Are you kidding me? How many people lived in that city? It was a huge city. And they carpet bombed the thing. They bombed it with ballistics and they covered it with jellied gas to just fry everything. And Kurt, when he was describing the bombing, he was saying that like the sheer heat from the gas, from the napalm or whatever they used, just boiled all the water in a damn city. I mean, it was just devastating.
Yeah. Huh?
And, he claims, 250,000 people died. I still think, there's a lot There's a lot more people in that city than 250,000.
You think that's why the book was banned? Because
yes,
the subject matter.
And he touches on a couple of times in Slaughterhouse-Five. When he's in the hospital talking with one of the officers from the Air Force, and that's kind of the part where you kind of become to understand why this thing was such a hot button. So
yeah. Well, I mean, and that book sort of catapulted off his literary career, and then he, obviously went on to write a lot of other successful books. He spent some time, I know, in different parts of the country. He eventually, his sister ended up dying real tragically. I saw that where, was she sick with cancer or something? And then, no, their husband was sick, and then on the way to the hospital. No, his sister was sick, and then on the way to the hospital to visit her, the husband ended up dying. Uh-huh. So both his sister and her husband died, and Kurt and his wife had to adopt her kids. But they already had kids of their own, and they ended up only adopting 3 of the 4 kids, and one of the kids had to go somewhere else. And eventually Kurt ended up getting divorced from his original wife he married. But I think he's most known for his performance in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my first experience with him.
Was he in Back to School?
He is in Back to School.
Is he a professor?
Hey, Vonnegut!
Rodney Dangerfield has to write a paper about Kurt Vonnegut. So he hires Kurt Vonnegut to write the paper, and I think Vonnegut gets a D on it.
That's awesome.
Our super fan Dave Allen put it on our Twitter feed.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dave. Clips.
So
yeah, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about him. Obviously, he's got a illustrious literary career with a lot of recognition. I mean, do you have anything else to add? I mean, there's endless.
Well, there's all kinds. We can go on forever. But we got to kind of wrap it up.
All right. I don't know if do you have anything to add about him, Will?
Not really, no.
Okay. All right. Well, then why don't we just do a quick summary of Slaughterhouse-Five? Will, you can set us up with that, and we can just get right into that book.
Billy Pilgrim becomes unstuck in time, and he's a World War II veteran and fighter who, by meeting an alien, gets to view life as the way aliens do it in a non-linear sense, and he can view the events in his life as if they're on a sliding scale going backwards and forwards in time. And it overall creates a narrative that's not so much about a story, but it's about a philosophy and about the way that human behavior is inconsistent with the goals of humanity. And it's hard for me to summarize it. Let's just get into the discussion, but it's a fantastic read. It should be experienced by everyone.
Well, let me ask you, Will, like you said, the story is not linear. I mean, it jumped over to place over this guy's lifetime. Maybe it was the quantum leap. Tell me your thoughts on that style.
Vonnegut has a certain style of writing that I'm accustomed to. This wasn't the first Vonnegut book I read.
Or wrote.
Probably the 4th or 5th. Or wrote. Yeah, that's between me and the Vonnegut estate, you son of a bitch. But, yeah, I mean, Vonnegut will kind of skip to the end, usually in the first paragraph of his books, and he'll repeat points over and over, and it's a certain repetitiveness and drumming in of phrases, so it goes. It's a style of its own. I can't really compare it to anything other than Vonnegut. But if I was given a book, I could probably spot a Vonnegut book very easily. It's very stylistic.
I guess I felt.
I'm not sure I'm on topic here.
The non-linear aspect jumps all over the place in the guy's life, and that's probably more the science fiction aspect of it, along with the aliens. But I felt. Yeah.
I mean, Ryan, let's be honest. It's barely science fiction. It's science fiction in the sense that he had to call it something. It's really just Vonnegut telling us how he feels about the sons of bitches that humans are when it comes to war in the world. I mean, a lot of his books. I mean, his books aren't great Asimov, Stephen King horror science fiction books. They're really contemporary American literature that discusses contemporary things. He uses the sci-fi umbrella, but he's not a sci-fi author. I mean, it's sci-fi in the loosest sense of the word. It's philosophy. It's a way to use a metaphor to make a point. It's not really.
Well, I mean, I disagree with that statement, but I understand what you're saying, that it's not strong science fiction.
You're
but
wrong.
what I feel like is that one of the things is that since it's not linear,
that's not true.
writing style and it's like kind of short declarative sentences that makes it a little bit easier to digest. Or did you want?
I agreed with what Will said.
What do you disagree with what I just said?
When you
yeah, be specific.
Say anything controversial.
Oh, well, I don't agree that you're kind of just boldly saying
it is only in the most technical sense.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I agree with that. It's loose, very loose.
I'm curious what you disagree with me about. I mean, that wasn't controversial. I mean, if you disagree with me, please elaborate. But I mean, I'm comparing to like science fiction, like Asimov or Stephen or any of these authors who are trying to create a dystopia. He's not leaving the world behind. He's only using aliens in a metaphorical sense to make a point about humanity. He's not telling a story about an alien world. At no point is this like a speculative tale of science fiction, and I'm making that very clear for the people that are listening. I mean, if you disagree with that, I
guess I agree with you in the sense that it's not strong science fiction.
I guess you.
So
okay.
Yeah, it's not an insulting. It's not. I'm not. Yeah, but it's not. I mean, it's not. I read Cat's Cradle originally thinking, oh, this is a great sci-fi book. I'm like, this is barely a sci-fi book, but it's a great read. He's a great author, but this is not like.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sci-fi stuff. I mean, there's it's great literature, I guess, but
part
hate
feels like that.
Go on.
Like I said, this book, the way it's structured, it's almost like maybe how post-traumatic stress disorder is experienced. How it the jumping in time, they could easily be, and maybe this goes to your point, Wilk. It could just be really flashbacks. I mean, he does say he's traveling in time. He makes it clear. It's not questioned.
I look at Billy Pilgrim as a piece of meat that Vonnegut uses to throw it all, to feed us all. He's not. Billy, he doesn't mean anything to the story. I don't think Vonnegut gives a flying hoo-ha about him. I think Vonnegut very artistically made a point about war, one that stuck with me my entire life, about humanity. I mean, it's an overwhelming book. It's simplistic and brilliant at the same time. I'm gonna, go off on a limb and sound like you and Rick, be very sincere here, but I think it's a very important book. I think it's one that everybody should read, and they should read it more than once. It really kind of hits the hammer home about the pointlessness of war and the frailty of life, and it does it in a way that I don't think I could ever do. I mean, it's just fantastic.
Yeah. It does have that sort of, it has that pacifist or anti-war aspect, but you're not hit over the head with that. He does it in a very unique way. He almost, at the same time as he's talking about the atrocities of war, he also, in the back, is almost acknowledging, there was some bad stuff going on in Germany, and, obviously something had to be done. And so he sort of acknowledges the reality of sometimes bad things happen and doesn't make it right, but like he says, and so it goes. Like this life happens.
It's almost like difficult. Jazz, though, and I don't like jazz, and I don't like people that talk about jazz, but I don't really like myself that much either right now. But it's not what he says; it's what he doesn't say when he's writing it. I mean, the aliens are looking at us with condescension, and we can relate to that. We're like, yeah, we do suck, but it's not in an overhanded way. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's trying to teach any lesson about life other than that we need to be more self-aware of how vast the universe is and what little role we have in it, and that maybe we shouldn't take things so seriously and kill everybody and then celebrate the killing of people over and over again with yellow ribbons on trees. I mean, it isn't anti-military. Everybody should be anti-military. I am hugely anti-military.
Bravo, Will.
I don't like the military. This book...
Ridiculous statements.
It's not a ridiculous statement. I do not support...
Those are all ridiculous statements.
No, I like it. Wilk, you made good points, man. Wilk,
yes.
You can't say what you just said, but that needs to be said. Kurt Vonnegut tried that in Slaughterhouse-Five in different words, and I appreciate your candor, man.
Well, I mean, you can't say it, but you can't.
I think that was horrible.
People aren't... It's not horrible. We've been at war for 100 years, Ryan. In our lifetime, we've had like 5 or 6 years where we're not actively at war, but we're still secretly at war with people. I mean, we now, in the last 15, 20 years, we've made our military heroes. Everyone's a fucking hero in the military. This idiot sniper, we should read that book. I went over to my wife's grandpa's house. He's 93 years old. He has a copy of the book because he watches Fox News, and he's in his 90s, and God bless him, he fought in World War II. And he gives me kind of the book and says, this guy is too stupid to wash my shoes. And I'm reading excerpts. I mean, it's amazing. These heroes, we're worshiping them as heroes because they go and, like good little soldiers, fight for the people that tell them to fight. Look at the stupid wars we fought in the last 40 or 50 years. I mean, it's nonsense. And nothing's changing. We're just getting more sophisticated at how we kill them. And this book doesn't whitewash it. I mean, it's like, yeah, we killed women and children. That's how we won. That's how you win a war. You kill women and children.
That's how they won World War II.
Yeah, and that's how this book doesn't. I mean, and here's the thing: we don't like killing women and children anymore, talking about it. But this book made it very clear. This is how it's done. It's how it's always been done. It's how it will always be done. You want to defeat your enemy, you kill them until they have no strength to fight you anymore. That's war. I don't support that. I don't. So I don't support our military.
Yeah.
I think we should try and work things out. We're intelligent enough. We're sophisticated enough. We can do that. But I mean, this calls it what it is. There's no glory in this. You're killing someone's mother. You're killing someone's son, someone's daughter. You're wiping out their life, and we're all going to die anyways. So
and it just it amazes me that we think we're the best country in the world. We're isolationists, man. Like the day that we get bombed. Well, first of all, it's never happened. We don't know what it's like. But at the same time, we've got
9/11.
9/11. What? 3,000 people died.
Yeah, we freaked the fuck out about that.
50 fucking thousand people. Not just fucking drones going to work every day.
All right. Any more opinions in the book?
More people die in earthquakes and tidal waves. I mean, 9/11 was nothing, and we spent $1 trillion on nonsense wars. That's more than we have in student loan debt. We could have paid off every student loan if we had avoided going to Iraq and Afghanistan. What did we get out of Iraq and Afghanistan? What lessons do we learn?
They're not interested in education, Wilk. If we were, we wouldn't go to war. We wouldn't be funding Lockheed Martin. We wouldn't be funding, Northrop Grumman.
Would we be funding the Vonnegut?
We have we have military bases in 20 different countries.
All right, guys, we're getting way off into this military tangent. I mean, I think you guys made your point though. We're kind of saying the same thing over and over again.
Kurt Vonnegut begins the book saying this is a true story.
More or less.
What?
I think he says more or less.
Yeah, more or less. But you talk about Tralfamadore, but he also talks about Dresden, man.
Well, one of the things I felt was throughout this book is the main character, even though he's unstuck in time, he's also trapped in various aspects of his life. He's in the war. He's trapped. He's a prisoner of war. At home, he sort of feels like he's trapped in this optometrist job, and he can't get
I don't
out.
think he feels trapped.
And in his marriage, he also seems like he kind of feels trapped.
Like Wilk says, I think he's a piece of meat, and he's just putting up with it. And then, he doesn't mind, but he's kind of a wimp. And then, in order for him to deal with it, he goes to and
even on Tralfamadore, he's trapped.
No,
he's
but he feels at
basically
peace in Tralfamadore. He loves Tralfamadore. That's his Garden of Eden.
But in all of these different aspects of the book, he's sort of trapped. I thought that was
do you
kind
ever
of
feel
interesting.
bad for him when you read the book? And again, I've read this book 5 or 6 times. I never feel bad for Billy. I feel like he's just part of this machine, and he's being shown his life, but he's not. I don't feel bad that I don't feel bad for him. Again, I think the whole thing works as a metaphor where you're supposed to look at the human race as an outsider looking in, and that's what the book accomplishes. Billy, I don't care about his plight. He lives, he dies. The aliens have made it very clear, that's okay, we all live and die. But it doesn't have to be from point A to point B. And it's that perspective that they're trying to impute onto the people that are reading this, or that's the interesting part. Billy's story...
They have that fatalistic perspective. The aliens say that they're not worried about how the world's going to end because they've seen how the universe is going to end. And
right. They're content with it.
It's all a mistake. One of their test pilots screws up and blows up the whole universe.
They know what's going to happen over and over again. They let it happen.
Yeah. It's sort of a fatalistic look at life.
Yeah.
But does it then, have free will? Is that what this book is saying, that there is no real free will?
Not when you are shoved off to war like that. And even the people who volunteered for the war, I mean, it was almost like peer pressure. That's the way it seemed to me. I mean, if you were not volunteering for the war, what the hell was the matter with you?
Yeah, you kind of feel that.
There's no free will in that.
Kind of feel that in the book.
And then you're scarred for you got your reputation's tarnished.
Mm-hmm. What did you guys think of the Tralfamadorians? Were you a big fan of them, Wilk?
Well, they're basically Calvinists from outer space.
Calvinists.
Yeah, I mean...
And that look like plungers?
Well, I mean, they don't believe that anything... They believe that everything happens at the same moment in time. There is no free... I didn't take any of this that seriously. I thought it was a very philosophical book, and yeah, they were a MacGuffin. They were literally a Tralfamadorian. Yeah, it's basically as close to a FU made up name that you can get. You know.
Okay. Do you want to get into to Tralfamador?
We don't really know much about Tralfamador, except they like looking at the humans making out in their little cage. And then I guess they want to bring a message of peace to Earth and tell people to just cool it out. Take a look at the fourth dimension. Can't change much there, so everyone just exit and kind of focus on the good.
Hey, focus on the good.
If I can ask,
like when Wilk was in his car, and he was focused on, well, he can always just Skype us, even though his car is stuck at an acceleration of 55 miles an hour.
I was really excited about coming down there. I was going to go to the Greenbush Brewery. I was listening. I had some podcasts. I was listening. I was in a great mood. But now I'm back at home. I've had a liter of Belgian beer that's really strong, and I'm with my family, which is lovely. They're upstairs, and I'm gonna go hang out with them. I'm gonna go see my little brother. We're gonna have fun.
Was that your little brother with the Red Wings jersey?
What's that?
Or was that your brother with the Red Wings jersey that you texted, or is that somebody else?
No, it's this jackass lawyer I know who's like using that as a promotional picture on his website. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know it and I forget it.
Good.
But
good.
Yeah, I just thought it was hilarious.
All right. Well, I don't know. Do we have anything else to add about the book? I mean, it's not a long book.
No.
It's sort of the way it's. He's got a simple writing style in these, I guess, narrative sentences. It's easy read, but it is a little bit difficult how it flips around. But I mean, it's. Well, I don't know. Maybe we've covered pretty much all there is to it.
Well, no. Can I throw in? Can I facilitate a little discussion about the book with you two for our listeners?
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys read other Vonnegut books? I bet Rick has, but Ryan, have you read a bunch of his stuff or not?
Yeah, I think I've only read Cat's Cradle.
Okay, he does tie in a lot of characters throughout his books and themes.
That's right.
Breakfast of Champions kind of summarizes. Is kind of a culmination of a lot of his ongoing characters and things like that. But Vonnegut should be an airport book. If you guys don't have anything to read, pick up a Vonnegut book. His books read quickly. They last.
And then
they imprint on you. He really is a treasure. He's a Mark Twain. He's a Toni Morrison. And I know we don't read Toni Morrison here, but he's truly a great author. And I hate to be that sincere and earnest, but he really is. Of all the people we've read, he's the only person I would really tell people to go out and read. Just whatever you can, read it of his. He's just
Wilk, we get
reading.
it.
Yeah.
Did you spot other characters? Like, what did you spot in Slaughterhouse-Five that were from other books?
The alien race makes a few appearances,
really?
But I don't remember if it's their first appearance.
I didn't know that.
I reread Breakfast of Champions.
Yeah,
about
I'm
a year
curious
ago,
that one.
And that was written well after this. And are they Galactopos? Are they in that too?
I don't know about that one. I didn't read that book, but
isn't Kilgore Trout is in a couple books?
Oh, Kilgore Trout is, and Rosewater.
Yeah.
Mr. Rosewater was in the hospital with Billy Pilgrim. He's from God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater, and that book is all about home, and it's a beautiful book, man. It made me cry. I mean, it's an awesome book. I recommend that for everybody. And then there's another character, and he's an extremely interesting character who shows up during Slaughterhouse-Five when all of the soldiers get to Dresden. This guy, I think his name is Marshall Bradley or something like that. But he is the American propagandist for the Nazis. All right, and he is there to recruit all of the soldiers that are being held at the slaughterhouse, and he's in Mother Night. He's the main character in Mother Night.
Oh, God.
So there is a lot of characters that jump around.
No, I mean,
into other books. But I also read that he doesn't keep the same timeline with them. He will change them in the other books.
Yeah, he's his own. There's so much little subtext there, but he's not like a Peter Jackson nerd. He's doing it all with a plan. He's kind of a free spirit, but he uses the same characters. And I didn't know until today. You made that point about somebody went to the hospital and they got killed in the way to the hospital. He uses that in this book too. So he's clearly taking things from his own life and integrated them into the story. So
yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, it
look forward to watching the short film that you made today that I did not get to participate in. So, by my own choice.
Yeah, I mean, for our listeners, we're going to have a video companion piece, which should be out on our YouTube channel. If it's not another, we're going to do a little short bio piece on Kurt Vonnegut's relationship to Culver, Indiana. With the understanding he didn't grow up here, he didn't own any property here, but he would vacation here, and a lot of his family did. So he had.
He was here from birth to about, I think, 10 or 12 years old.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But he mentioned this place in some of his writings and in interviews, and he came back here a bunch of times as an adult, including on his honeymoon. He visited this area. So, and the house they came back to is actually right next door.
He had
staring at it right
special
now.
Affinity for this place.
Yeah. And we think that his dad built that dock that's right there that you can't see on the podcast, but we're staring at. And we're just kind of doing a little short bio just on his relationship to the area. And, sometimes where you're from or places that are close to your heart sort of contribute to who you are and in your probably his works and his writings in certain ways. We're sorry that you couldn't join us for a while, but
I'm sorry too. I am sorry too. It was a freak occurrence in my car, which I'm calming down about. But yeah, that was it really sucked. It really fucking sucked.
Yeah, well, we had a nice time, and we got Jeff Kenny to come, who is a local newspaper editor and sort of a local historian in the area. So he gave us a chunk of time to interview him.
Journalist at the Culver Citizen and the historical curator.
Yeah, at the museum.
At the Academy, or at the museum.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, maybe it's Academy Museum or museum.
Oh, man,
he was very informative and kind of told us about the history of the area, and then we kind of how it related to the Vonneguts. So that'll be fun to watch. I think that wraps up the book. When we just get into the movie, of course, was directed by
George Hill.
Use my cheat sheet. George Roy Hill. And you're going to tell us
this was mind-blowing because George Roy Hill has made like some of my absolute favorite movies, and I had no idea they're all done by the same director until I researched this at all. But he made The Sting, which is just a perfect movie. He made Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, and oddly enough, he made The World According to Garp, which was Robin Williams' first turn as a serious actor, which is based on a John Irving book, who's also one of my favorite authors, who we'll never do on the show because he's not sci-fi. But and then he did Funny Farm. The last movie he made was Funny Farm with Chevy Chase, which
he made that.
That was a good movie.
That wasn't that good.
Funny Farm actually.
I didn't like it.
I think Funny Farm's I think it's a great movie. I really do. I think it's.
I only like the mailman in that movie.
Yeah, the mailman. I like how the whole town tends to get. But anyways, after Funny Farm, he went to go teach Yale, and basically he was a self-effacing, according to IMDb, professor who made fun of himself.
Self-effacing what? Professor?
College professor.
College.
Yeah. Here's what I don't get. I'm reading about him. Apparently, the critics did not like him, and I'm looking at. He made Slapshot with Paul Newman.
Oh my god!
This guy, excellent movie. We grew up on that one.
Right? No, I mean, and again, I grew up on The Sting. That was a family favorite in the Wilkinson house. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid was like my mom's favorite movie. My dad loved The Sting. My dad loved Slapshot. I had no idea it was the same director.
I've heard of all these movies, and I didn't even know that Slaughterhouse-Five was a movie until we started.
And here's the thing: to me, and this is my soundbite line. Making Slaughterhouse-Five into a movie is like making the Mona Lisa into a movie. The book is a work of art. It doesn't. The movie was fine. I just didn't care. I don't want to watch it as a movie. I like the book. I want to read the book.
Yeah.
It works as a book. The movie was passable, but like for all the points I made with Ryan a little bit earlier, I just don't care about it as a movie. I like reading it as a book. That's how it works for me. But for our listeners, you can watch it. This guy has made far better movies than Slaughterhouse-Five. It's not a bad movie, but he's actually criticized because he makes solid movies with non-artistic camera angles. He does them like in the classic studio, almost 40s, 50s production values. Again, he's worked with some of the top talent in Hollywood from a certain era. he was making movies in the 70s that were positive, and in the 70s things were going in a different direction. I don't understand why the critics hate him so much. He's Catholic. He's from money.
Well, these are all kind of cult classic movies.
Okay,
one of the reasons
Ryan,
why.
These aren't cult classic. These are huge hits. I mean, not to be argumentative.
Oh, yeah.
Garp might be a cult classic, but Slapshot, The Sting, and Butch Cassidy, come on, man. Those are...
Yeah, blockbusters.
Yeah, those are iconic. I mean, there's no other word for them. Paul Newman and Robert Redford owe their career. They've made their two biggest movies that you associate with those two working together were made by this guy. And, but he died.
Paul Newman was a little older when he did Slapshot. I mean, he was Cool Hand Luke, man.
Oh, yeah, Cool Hand Luke. But I mean Redford and Paul Newman together.
Yeah, Redford? Sure.
They were the Ben Affleck and Matt Damon of their generation, unfortunately or fortunately. But those are but apparently he fell out of favor with Hollywood. I'm not sure how that could have happened.
When? Like when he made
Slaughterhouse-Five? He made The Sting after it. The Sting.
Did he?
Okay.
I
love The Sting. I could, and then Slapshot in 77, Garp in 82, Funny Farm in 88. So
he won Best Director for this thing.
Did he, Ryan? I wasn't aware of that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, but
that's 1974.
Yeah, for whatever reason, his work, according to IMDb, his work was derided as impersonal or lacking stylistic trademarks. Which, frankly, I think it's okay to lack trademarks in your work. It's like, do you need to put Nike on your shirt? Do you need to have a label?
Wait, they're complaining because he's not advertising in his movie?
No, he never saying he didn't have a catchphrase, or trademark,
like I'll
style.
Be back. Okay,
he didn't have a trademark style.
Oh, okay. What about? I'm listening to the fucking song.
But yeah, so that's my take on him. I mean, if you guys want up to the movie, go at it. I watched the movie last night from about 11:03 to 1 in the morning in bed on an iPad with my lovely wife, and we were distracted, and we both kind of thought, so...
I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah.
We get right into it. I mean, Rick...
it was good.
I mean, did you feel it was... Rick, did you feel like the movie was different from the book at all?
Yeah.
You did?
It didn't, exhibit too many of the scenes that I just loved in the book that made the point that human beings are pieces of meat in war. Like the scene when they were in the train car going to Dresden, that was skipped. And in the book, the scene, they're all crammed up, they're laying on top of each other, there's a vent on the wall, and the Germans are passing water in, and then they're passing out, they're dumping their piss and shit outside the vent. So it's like this organism filled with a bunch of American soldiers.
Yeah, the train. Yeah, he described it as like an organism. Yeah, the food goes in and then waste comes out.
Yeah, and the movie kind of skipped out on a lot of the perception of Americans in war. There's a huge part in the book that makes perceptions of Americans, and all of that was cut out. Another thing, the funniest part in the book, the part that just made me laugh out loud, and I was laughing like hysterically, and I don't know why. It's not like intelligent comedy, but this is when the soldiers, and I was waiting for this part in the movie. It never happened. They skipped over it, but this is when the soldiers bunked up with all the British soldiers, right? Mm-hmm. And this is when they started contrasting American soldiers and British soldiers.
Right.
Kurt was contrasting. And the British soldiers were extremely hospitable, and they had the Americans down and just feast. And, the British soldiers were in a camp, but the Germans treated them extremely well.
And they treated the Russians like horrible.
Oh, they treated the Russians like they were dirt. And I don't know why. I don't know the history on that. But...
they don't like each other.
Sorry.
The
British soldiers put on a play for the American soldiers.
Yeah.
All right? The Cinderella play. And then there was a couplet that was said, and I forget what the couplet fucking said, but it made Billy Pilgrim just screech in laughter, and he couldn't stop. I wish... we don't have that book here, do we?
The book?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it. It's
I'd love to just kind of, recite the couplet, but they skipped over that. So, he was shrieking so badly and just laughing, he couldn't control himself probably because he just kind of went through the Battle of the Bulge, and he was on this train going to Dresden. He was just completely out of control, and they picked him up and they put him into the hospital.
But wasn't that camp filled with English officers, whereas not just all the officers? Isn't that what was going on?
What?
When the English men that were in the camp, the prison camp,
yes,
that the Americans go to, weren't those only English officers? Is that why they were treated differently?
Possibly.
I don't know.
I can't remember. But I don't know. The movie left out some key parts. My favorite parts of the book, and but overall, I thought the movie was good. I'm just kind of mystified that it wasn't any more popular than when it came out. And
they don't show the aliens. They don't show the Trail Famidorians. How'd you feel about that?
I didn't like it. The Trail Famidorians were described kind of
they're described as a plunger with eyeballs in the hand.
Right, one eyeball in the hand, and they would clap when Billy Pilgrim would have sexual intercourse with his mate on Trail Famidor, and they would clap with their hand by kind of closing their fingers over their palms, and that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it must have saved the budget by not having to make aliens.
Yeah,
they just made them like invisible.
Yeah, some funny parts in the book, they were completely deleted. So, yeah, the movie gets like 3 stars. It was still good, but it could have been a lot better.
The actor did pretty good. I don't know how much other stuff he did. Didn't he actually leave movie making after a while? Michael Sack? I don't know if he did other stuff. Or much other stuff.
I don't know.
All right, I mean...
What?
Yeah, go ahead, Walt.
No, I'm sorry. Go on.
No, I mean, I guess for the most part enjoyed the movie. I understand what Rick's saying. I enjoyed the acting in it. I don't know. I thought it was a decent movie. I guess it just didn't blow me away, but I would not say it was a good movie. It didn't suck. I think it was so unfaithful to the book. Maybe you feel differently, Rick, but I didn't feel like it was so unfaithful that...
Yeah, it wasn't unfaithful, no, but I guess they just couldn't afford to do some of those scenes.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay. What's next?
Let's wrap it up, bitches.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I give the book 4 stars, the movie 3 stars.
Yeah.
I'd give this.
Well, I give the book 5 stars. The movie's got 3.
Yeah, the book is a solid. The movie is a solid 3 stars. The book is perfect.
Yeah.
Whatever star ranking that is. 5.
Yeah, I'd give it a strong 4 stars.
Yeah, I mean, I if every book was this good, we would all read more. So it's great.
Interesting to note, I think also that we were talking about this earlier today, that I think Vonnegut appealed more to the generation below him than his peers. He kind of appealed to the college kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but
and he probably had appeal.
Vonnegut's generation was very serious. That was the greatest generation. And if I came back from World War II and I had watched my friends die, and I can see a lot of people. I know people in that generation, and you guys probably do too. I know Ryan does with your grandparents, but I mean, they saw a lot of stuff, and it's probably harder to come to terms with the reality of what they did and why they did it. And people that go through that kind of thing don't want to admit that maybe they're fighting someone else's battle for a bullshit reason. And Vonnegut kind of called it out, and he did it in a way that wasn't like Oliver Stone-ish and in your face and you're killing babies, but he kind of did it in an elegant, artistic way. But yeah, I mean, I think he was trying to appeal to younger generations, and he was successful, because this is how you change the world. This is it's an important book. He's an important man, and everybody should read him.
Okay. So, again, we'll just invite everyone to go check out our YouTube page and look at the video we have created to give a little more flavor and insight into Vonnegut. I think we might also have an audio companion piece to go with this as well, maybe a slice of the interview with Jeff Kenny, the local editor at the Culver Citizen. And big thanks to him.
Huge thanks. He did a great job.
Yeah, he did an excellent job. Other than that, we will invite everyone to join us next month when we read The King in Yellow and Other Horror Stories by Robert Chambers.
Ooh, that's the next one. Huh?
Shit.
And
wait.
we're going to watch the HBO series True Detective, which was directed by Cary Fukunaga. How to pronounce that, Will?
No. But,
And starring Matthew McConaughey.
okay.
So join us next month for The King in Yellow and Other Horror Stories, and to watch True Detective. We invite everyone to subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe on iTunes. We love when people write reviews.
Write reviews, you assholes! You're just stealing if you don't write reviews. You're thieves.
If it ever happens.
You're all thieves.
You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, write reviews, like our Facebook fan page. You can follow us on Twitter.
All kinds of shit.
We've got lots of ways to keep up with us and stay on top of all the goodness we have broadcasting right to you on the
Shake
internet.
your little ass.
And to hear all these constant updates from David Wilkinson and his various struggles with his car, which I think this is the second car one that's made the podcast so far.
Is it?
This year. Yeah, you had that flat tire that one episode.
Oh my god, but I still got back. God, this fucking car.
Yeah, ditch the Nissan.
Oh god. Yeah, it's a goddamn. I had a Nissan before that was like 200,000 miles on it. I gave it away to some relative, like an asshole. I bought this. I bought this car for like $7,000. I put 40,000 miles on it, and like bullshit things keep happening to it. You know,
Why would our fans not tune in next month to see what else happens?
Car Talk!
Car Talk with David Wilkinson. The saga continues.
Part 2.
All right, and
I'm
with
not
that, let's
dead.
all say goodnight. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
We're signing off all the way here from
Good night.
Culver, Indiana, and where are you? Ypsilanti, Michigan?
I'm back in fucking Ipsy.
All right, good night, everyone. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh, was I supposed to be recording this? Okay.
For more information on the topics discussed in this episode, or to read our show notes and find us on social media, visit nodeodorant.com. For more information on Ryan Sean O'Reilly and his various works of fiction, visit ryanseanoreilly.com. For more information on David Wilkinson, visit drycracker.com. For more information on Richard Mell, check out his profile at goodreads.com. The theme music for this podcast was written by John Doyle from the band I Decline. You can visit him at i-decline.com. Voiceover for this podcast was provided by me, Margaret O'Reilly. Well, that concludes our episode. We hope you've learned a lot. Again, thanks for listening to our show. And always, always remember, there is no deodorant in outer space.
And I'm just thinking about how I spend so much time in my life doing things I don't want to do to make other people happy, and this is one of them. I'm just so sick of this podcast and the time that it consumes and it goes nowhere. I can't hear you. I could hear you before, so whatever you did, could you undo so I can hear you again?
There, how about that? We'll turn up that mic a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's loud. I can hear you
Okay,
now.
great.
It's awesome.
Okay. All right, just turn up the middle mic. All right.
Part in the book that makes perceptions of Americans, and all of that was cut out. Another thing, and I thought this was Wilk, are you playing Hearthstone again?
No. Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't remember. Don't record that. I burped.
No, we're keeping everything.
All right.